don't give up. It's really hard in the beginning when you're trying to get into recovery and you're getting sober, and it's always like really, for me, it was really, really challenging in the beginning. But the thing that I was gifted with was that I was surrounded by a lot of people that had been sober for a long time, and my advice would be to find the people that are doing well and stick with them. And that's what really helped me in the beginning.
In a world of shadows, River stood alone, with dreams in his heart, but a mind overthrown. Watched his parents drown in a bottle's embrace, swore to break the cycle to find his own place. But a whisper of chaos lured him away. In the grip of the night, he lost his way. River breaks, rise from the ashes, put strength in your heart, let go of the flashes. From chaos to healing, your spirit ignites, a counselor's path leading into the light. Teenage years crumbled under golden chains, a fleeting escape, but it brought only pains. Through the haze of the drink, he started to drown, like spinning out, wearing a lost crown. But inside a meeting, a spark caught his eye. In Augusta's embrace, he learned how to fly. River banks, rise from the ashes, but strength in your heart, let go of the flashes. From chaos to healing, your spirit ignites, a counselor's path leading into the light. In the afterlife, the soul a tasted for a free. Never base, now the strife, now the intimacy. Nothing of the storms, he stands tall and free. River banks found his strength, now he helps others see.
My name is River Banks. I'm a substance use counselor, and I recover loud.
River, welcome.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, it's great to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
So you live in the Lewiston area?
Yeah, I live in Lewiston. Yeah, I live right in the middle of the city.
Did you grow up here?
No, I'm originally from Massachusetts. We moved to Maine when I was like 12 or 13.
What part of Mass?
I was originally from Brockton,
Okay.
and then we lived in Bridgewater, West Bridgewater, Taunton, East Taunton, and then we moved to Maine with my dad's business.
So that's a lot of moving in the first 12
Yeah,
years.
yeah. We were always moving around.
I actually grew up just outside of Worcester
Oh, cool.
until my freshman year in high school, and I moved to northern Maine. And I know for me it wasn't traumatic necessarily, but it had a big effect on me.
Sure.
That age going into a new area where nobody knew me, I didn't know anybody. Did that affect you in the same
A little
way?
bit, yeah. I had to spend the move. We moved twice in Maine, but the move from Massachusetts to Maine was the worst because I had like best friends and I had all these people that I was like connected with, and there was always that pull, like, when are we going to move back to Mass? When are we going to move back to Mass? And eventually I let go of that idea because I knew it wasn't going to happen, but it was really hard. We were in the Newport area, and it was just like this small little town, and like,
I went from being like in like this highly populated area to this small area with just the people. It's just, you know, I love Maine and I love Mainers, but it was just, it's a very different culture.
You are a substance use counselor.
Yeah, I went to school for my case manager, MHRTC, which is like, it stands for Mental Health Rehabilitation Technician Community, I think is what it is. And I got so I took the classes. I was in school for like a year, and then that qualified me to take my certified alcohol and drug counselor test. So I got my CADC, started working at Recovery Connections in Maine and Lewiston, where we're shooting now. And then I got my LADC, my fully licensed counselor.
What got you interested in becoming a counselor?
Really, what got me interested in being a counselor was I really wanted to help people like me, people like us. You know what I mean? I got, you know, I have an engineering degree from Maine Maritime Academy, so I was like, I did that whole thing for a while, and it was really soulless. I did not like that job. I went to school for it and worked hard for that degree, but it really wasn't for me. And becoming a counselor was something that like I had bounced around a little bit. I wasn't sure that I wanted to do it. I was really nervous about becoming a counselor. I'm on the autism spectrum, and you know, I was diagnosed with autism in age 41, and so that I had these like, in my head, I had these stereotypes about myself that made me really insecure about wanting to help people. I mean, I'm in the program. I got sober in AA, and I've sponsored people and stuff like that. That worked, but really, for me, I was nervous about becoming a counselor because I had that stereotype that like, oh, I miss social cues and I may not be able to tune in on how someone's feeling because I'm missing that and stuff. And really, it actually became the opposite. It was exactly the opposite. Those fears went away when I started to notice how I positively affected people.
Yeah.
Because I would tell people, I tell clients here, you know, I have autism. You know what I mean? Like I'm upfront with it because sometimes I have little behaviors and quirks and stuff like that. But really, in the end, I've been able to really connect with clients. And it ended up being a positive.
I just wanted to mention, and I have no qualms with sharing that you were a counselor of mine at one time. And you know, I feel that the year I think I was with you, I think I grew quite a bit in that year because you asked me the questions that really needed to be addressed for me. When previously, for me, counseling was, you know, going in and talking about things I had realized or learned about myself in the previous month and how great I was doing.
Yeah.
And I think that you saw beyond how great I was doing and saw that there was still work to do. And I've always appreciated that about you. Yeah. And I think your experience contributed to that. Let's back up to the time when you started using substances. When was that, and what was the first substance you used?
So when I was 16 years old, I drank my first beer. Alcoholism was a really big thing in my family. My father was an alcoholic who stopped drinking, who never got treated. So he was miserable. He never addressed his substance use disorder. My mother wasn't actively drinking. She drank up until she was put into hospice with cancer and died from alcoholism and chain smoking. And so I was surrounded by that energy all my life, some way or another, whether it was someone who was untreated or someone who was actively. So the first time I drank my first beer at age 16, and I told myself I'm never gonna drink because I saw what it did to my mom. But I ended up drinking my first beer at age 16, and it was wild because I was at my mother's apartment. She was working, and I used to go over there with my friends and just hang out. And this guy was like, "Hey man, you know, we should get some alcohol." I'm like, "I don't know about this thing." Like, you know, so he's like, "It'll be fine. So I drank my first. It was a Budweiser, and I drank it, and I thought it was disgusting. I thought it was gross. It's like the most hideous thing I've ever drank. But really, when it got down into my stomach and my face got a little warm, once I started drinking it, the first thing I said to my friends, I was like, "I can't wait to do this all the time."
Wow.
It was literally like instantaneous addiction.
Wow. Wow.
As soon as I drank that beer, it literally just rearranged my brain. Like, oh, I have to do this as much as possible.
Yeah.
And from there, it really escalated. And what another thing that made it kind of worse, too, is when I was 18 years old, back in the 90s. I graduated high school in 1996.
Okay.
Back in the 90s, so autism really wasn't a thing like it is now. People had autism, but they were often misdiagnosed, and it really wasn't a lot of education in the medical community yet.
Yeah.
So they thought I had ADHD. So I was one of those kids that was prescribed massive doses of Ritalin. And that was another thing that, like, as soon as I took it, like, it was like, I was super addicted.
My son, he was diagnosed with ADHD as well as a child, and the way he described it when he first took meds, because we as parents, we were fighting the idea of putting him on meds for a long time.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And once we finally he told us that it was like he'd been looking through a screen door his whole life, and suddenly that screen was gone. And just the fact that he described it that way, it scared me, as well as got me excited about the idea that he was going to be able to get through this and live a normal life.
There's also people who benefit from it.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong,
Right.
there was a period of time, dude, my grades went from C's and D's to straight A's.
Yeah.
And I got into a prestigious university. The problem is I have substance use disorder.
Right.
So if I didn't have substance use disorder, there's a chance I could have kept taking that medication, and because it did benefit me for a while.
Yeah.
I was able to focus and sit and not wander off, and there is some elements of me that is, I do have attention span issues.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I can't take addictive medication.
Yeah.
But
So-
there's people, I'm sorry, but there's people who really benefit. I have clients here
Yeah.
who take like Vyvanse, and they're like, oh man, you know, I struggled so much, and now I have this thing where I can sit still and pay attention. And
Once we, get away from the substances that are killing us and controlling our lives, we might find that we actually need something.
sure.
Because chemical imbalances and all that stuff. And, sometimes we still need that. We just have to do it under supervision,
Sure.
take it as prescribed. And I know in the beginning it's difficult. And a lot of people say that about MAT as well. Like, you're just getting put onto another medication.
Well,
But taking it as prescribed, I saw all the benefits.
Sure.
I saw none of the negative side.
Yeah.
Of course, there was physical dependence, but December 25th of 24 was my last dose. And, I'm doing great today without it. So, it's possible to get off those meds when you don't need them anymore. And, I don't see it as a negative aspect at all. And if you need something, get it through a doctor.
It's like I have to almost like, working with people here at the agency. It's like you have, like, sometimes you'll be I'll run an IOP group, right? And there'll be like two factions of people in that group sometimes. People that look at medication-assisted treatment as exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You have a disease that requires a medical intervention, which is medication.
Yeah.
Then there's other people that will say, oh, you're not sober. And I have to, like, you're not sober if you use Suboxone. You're not sober. And I'm like, I really have to dispel that and, like, help people. Like, here's the diagnostic. There's a DSM manual.
Mm-hmm.
In here, opioid use disorder is a disease.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people who take Suboxone and Methadone, right, that are doing very well today. But really it's that programming. People are told, that these things, and they believe them, and it's like sometimes it's a lot of work to get people to come around.
I see that, being on the social media, the apps, I see it all over the country. Some areas are worse than others. I think Maine has come a long way in dispelling that.
Sure.
And when people get upset and they argue that, and they fight that, it depends on your definition of sober.
Sure.
Some of the programs, they say you have to be 100% substance-free. So any psychoactive drugs, except for nicotine, caffeine, sugar.
Yep.
And if that's, they're going by the program's definition, you're not sober.
Right.
But why push the issue? I never say I'm sober. When I was on the medication, I was in recovery though. And to me, the word sober meant nothing. I might have been working towards an abstinence-based
Sure.
recovery program, But I was in recovery. I was still doing better. I was learning. I was growing. I was doing all the things. So to me, it didn't matter. And I really encourage people to get away from those words.
Yeah.
Because there's certain stigmas that are associated with every word we use,
Sure.
really.
Yeah.
You know, so my definition might not match theirs, and it's
No,
okay.
and that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's fine.
So you had your first beer at 16, and did it progress to any other substances?
So really, for me, I really stuck with stimulants and alcohol were the thing. But the stimulant addiction kind of ended up going away. It was about 10 years. I ended up getting incarcerated for my behaviors. Once I broke that cycle with the stimulants, I didn't really go back to them except once in a great while. But really, it was the alcohol that really stuck with me.
Recently, I was having a discussion with somebody about addictive personalities. If you're addicted to something, if you're an addict, no matter what you do, no matter what you take, you're going to get addicted to it. And that kind of goes against that idea. How do you feel on the topic of addictive personality? And
The way I look at it, and a lot of my thinking now, I've gotten used to being very clinical. So when it comes to like addictive personality, I think there are people that are quite genetically predisposed to addiction. There are people that anything, it's not just alcohol, it's not just drugs, it's, it can be sex addiction, it can be food addiction. So I think there are people out there now, if you look at the broad spectrum of people involved in our community, there are definitely people that like the first time they start trying things, they are addicted. And I think it goes into, it's a DNA, it's a genetic level. And there's a lot of studies now, and there's a lot of stuff they're doing now to investigate that, and they're finding that, there's a lot of root causes for that too, the genetic part of it, but there's also like, people that are traumatized, people that have really bad post-traumatic stress disorder, people that were socialized, and alcohol in their family. Like, it's like, when I was growing up, it was no big deal for mom and dad to go out in the backyard with a bunch of family members, and we all had tons and tons of alcohol, and we're getting, intoxicated frequently.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of feel about that. For me, it's always been like a genetic kind of. For some people, it's definitely been a genetic.
I've been working in substance use prevention now for the last year. And, in one of the programs I teach, we discuss the topic. And basically it says there's no actual proof of there being an addiction gene that people carry. Of course, there is our history, genetic history, plus our decisions, our actions.
Sure.
And that's going to equal the outcome. So, and that was my point in the conversation, is that there's no real evidence of a addictive personality per se. But again, I agree with everything you just said too, that some people, no matter what they do it and they won't stop doing it.
Right. Once they start, they can't stop.
Yeah. And I know plenty of people who, may have quit alcohol and drugs, and now they're gambling all the time.
Oh, sure.
Or chasing, sex addiction.
Or there's people that use substances, and like you go to like an AA, go to a recovery meeting, and chain smoking, 3 packs of cigarettes a day, drinking these huge thermoses full of coffee all day long. And I'm like, you really just replaced one thing with another. Because if there are some statistics out there that talk about people in the recovery community, and people dealing with addiction don't necessarily die from their substance. They die from all the other unhealthy habits they adopt.
What does recovery mean to you?
For me, recovery means, in my recovery, for me personally, it means, for me, abstaining from the substances that almost killed me. Recovery is me living a very well-connected spiritual life with my higher power,
And recovery for me also includes being connected to a community that feels pretty similar to the way I do about it. And recovery also means helping other people on their way up.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's really important when you're able to for me to get sober or abstain, be abstinent from the substances that almost killed me. I think that when you learn these lessons, the way to stay in there and be able to abstain and live a healthy life, you got to give away what you have.
Yeah.
That's what it really means to me.
Yeah, and I found the same thing. Service, helping other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's really been most of my program since for the last several years. And at one point, I kind of felt like I'd reached a ceiling.
I've been there.
And then it's like, take a deep look at myself and decide, am I growing? Am I stagnant? And what I did notice at the time was not necessarily that I was stagnant and not growing. I was growing in other areas.
Right.
By going back to school and getting my degree, I felt that was growing. Of course it is,
Sure.
right? Recently I started film school at NYU online. So, that's also growth. But was I doing things to, grow my spiritual relationship and connecting with people? And I found that that's where I was lacking.
Yeah.
And that's what I guess that's what I was seeing as a ceiling, even though I was like, no, because I am doing this and I'm doing that. And I'm gaining experience and knowledge and passing it on. So I'm not really stagnant. But yeah, with my spiritual self, it was, that's where I had to grow.
It's we're talking about this. Just a couple of feet away, we have an IOP group room, and there's so many times because we get into the different areas of recovery. We talk about physical health, emotional health, mental health, talk about financial health. We'll talk about spiritual health. That is such a sensitive area for some people, right? Because one, a lot of people associate it with organized religion, which for some people, that is a huge part of their recovery.
Yeah.
Christianity, Islam, you know what I mean? People, and they thrive, right? But there's a lot of people that when you start bringing up spirituality, they immediately connect it with religion. And I was like, it can or cannot be the same thing for some people, right? But the concept of God, that's the thing that gets people the most hung up. I've seen people in group therapy, we start talking about spiritual health, and they literally are just like looking at the door ready to leave.
Yeah.
And really when you start to educate people about spirituality, it's like, it's your concept. It's what you think spirituality is. It's not mine.
Right. It's
not yours. It's yours. You're in control of this. You're steering this, right? It's whatever you come up with as a higher power. And when I start to educate people about like, it's not out of your control, because there are people that grew up like in religious families where like they were made to do something they didn't want to do. And what I have to do with spirituality, I said, you're not being made to do anything. You are choosing to do what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's such a difference from being told that this is God, this is how you have to respect God. This is, if you have to fear God. All of these different, that can be scary for people.
Absolutely.
Especially if they've lived a life in addiction. They've done a lot of things that would go against what their idea of God was. So how can they just turn back to that?
Right.
So I do tell people that I am more spiritual than religious, but I religiously look to my spirituality for help. That's that. And the other aspect too, we mentioned it was physical health. As I'm getting older, I'm seeing more and more reasons that I need to take care of my physical health. And seeing where I may have beat myself up a little bit in years, because substance use can do that to us.
Oh, for me, brother, let me tell you, man, from alcohol, the impetus really for me getting sober, I had tried AA 2014, 2015. And unfortunately, the area I lived in further up north, there really wasn't a lot of recovery. it was like, and this is not, again, to blame someone else for my substance use disorder and not take responsibility. When I first tried AA, it was just a bunch of really miserable old men. And it was really like, for me, it was like, if I really wanted to deal with this, I'd go see my dad.
Right.
It was really, this situation was pretty difficult for me to want to be part of that community. So I moved from there and I moved to Augusta, and I thought that was going to change things, and it didn't. I still drank and for another month, and then I ended up in an emergency room, which was the impetus. So like I tried to get sober for a couple of years, didn't like the community, and I wound up in Maine General in Augusta, and I had like infections all through my lungs. I was coughing up blood. I went into this emergency room. I'll tell you the whole story. So I went into this emergency room. I was waking up. I was gasping for air. Right? It ended up being acid reflux coming up into my lungs, causing infections and stuff. And I went there. They got a bunch of tests. They said I had pneumonitis, bronchitis, infections. They had to give me intravenous antibiotics. But the emergency room doctor did something that I was really surprised. It worked though. And he looked at me and he goes, here is cirrhosis. Here is your liver. And he goes, I'm not going to tell you to stop doing what you're doing, but if you continue to keep doing what you're doing, you're going to die. Left it at that. They gave me a breathing treatment. He said, we'll be back with the discharge paperwork. I have some instructions. Have a good day. Like mic dropped. And the emergency room was like, boom, bye. The nurse came in and said, oh, River, here's your stuff. And I took it, and like the next day, that was a Wednesday. That was March 15th. March 16, 2016, March 17th, St. Patty's Day, 2016. A couple hundred yards from my house was this big Catholic church, and that's the first AA meeting I had been to in a while. And it was a 1-hour speaker meeting. And so you sit down, and it's a person talking about their experience, strength, and hope for an hour. I never heard the drunk-a-law. You know what I mean? And excuse that term, but you know what it means. What it means is the rambling on about how bad it was. I heard someone connect with me a little bit, talk about their story, and then talk about all the cool stuff that was happening. And that whole group, the home group had like 15, 20 people. All of them were sponsoring others, were being sponsored, had a job in a group, spoke, did service work, traveled around the country.
So you got to see the program.
Yes, I got to see the way it works.
Yeah.
The way it's intended in the big book. Mm-hmm. Like I got to see people that were just like huggy and happy and friendly, and I was really off put by it at first. I was like, what is this? But then once I got in with those people, it was wonderful, and that's I owe a lot of my recovery to my sponsor. That he was wonderful.
Yeah, and I kind of had a similar experience with the meetings. In the beginning, they didn't seem authentic, and then I went to a meeting, and there was a large group. They were all happy.
Yeah.
They actually call themselves the Blue Group down in Old Orchard Beach.
Okay.
And Saturday night, 7 o'clock. It's a great meeting. If you've never been.
A great time for a meeting too.
Yeah. That group has stuck with me, and I actually celebrated my 3 years by going back to that meeting and speaking. But the people were authentic.
Yeah, that's what I got. That's what I had. Yeah.
When I read the book, I saw it in that group.
Yeah.
I've been to other meetings where it's like the person who's speaking is what the meeting's based on, and whatever they think is what everybody's following. And that's that, personalities over principles when it shouldn't be. So I kind of backed away, and it was an NA meeting actually that turned me that way, because I went in on MAT, and I joined the business meeting afterwards, and the topic was the upcoming area meeting, and it was about MAT, and just about everyone in that group seemed like everybody to me at the time, because I felt this big. They said, "Oh, that's legal heroin. Those people aren't sober." And
I can't.
As a group,
I can't do it. I can't do it.
As a group, I felt like I've been sitting here for months, and I didn't know that was your belief. I'm not going to stand up and say I'm on MAT.
How would you? Then they ostracize.
Exactly.
That's
And they did so without knowing. And so I backed away from meetings completely.
Yeah.
Then I came to Lewiston, and I found a group that
very
accepted
different
everybody.
energy. Yeah,
Absolutely.
the recovery community here in Lewiston,
Mm.
Lewiston and Auburn is really good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the recovery community here. It's full of people
Yeah.
who share a lot of the same philosophies we do.
Yeah, exactly. And we recorded your message to people in early recovery, and you mentioned find your community
You have to.
and surround yourself with them.
Yes.
And to me, it was this community that surrounded me and allowed me to grow and allowed me to recover loud because I felt safe and comfortable. No matter what my background was, no matter what my path was, I could share it. And that actually, I decided to recover loud to help my friends back home because they didn't know this stuff. There was no community for them, and they were dying. So I was taking all the love and experience that I was gaining here and sharing it with them the only way I could. And, so I owe a lot of my recovery to this community.
Sure.
But I see how communities can work anywhere.
Mhm.
I mean, realistically, people have negative ideas and beliefs about this area.
Sure.
As,
Yeah.
being the
Lewiston,
second largest city in the state. I actually saw a list of the worst places to live in Maine. Lewiston and Auburn were second and third.
Yep.
To me, this was the best place for me to live
Sure. Me too.
in the time that I was living.
When I moved from Augusta to Lewiston, it was like I plugged myself immediately into the community, and I was like, wow, okay, here's another place where people are like doing it. They're living by. They got they're leading by example. They're going to tons of meetings. They're sponsoring. They have all the 12-steppy stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I will say this. It's like when I first came to Lewiston, of course, I didn't know what I didn't know what I was going to do. I moved right into a recovery house and started managing it, and I didn't know what my mission was at that time. I was like, I just know I need to get plugged into the community.
Right.
And when I got plugged into the community here, I noticed that there was leaders. There were people that were like, let's do this. Let's go on to outings. Let's celebration of life, and let's have another anniversary. And there was all this stuff that was a big part of what I had in Augusta. It was really refreshing to move to Lewiston and find another community with tons and tons of people.
Yeah.
Because there's a meeting I go to on Saturday nights now, and last week there was like 130 people. Yeah, 130 people in that room. It was wild. When I spoke for my anniversary, which is St. Patty's Day, ironically. It was 120.
Was that the back?
No, that's Saturday night. Young people's.
Oh wow,
Young people's. It was wild. I looked around the room. It was standing room only at one point.
that's amazing. And in Portland, that was kind of the norm when I first started.
Portland's got
Going
a
to-
great community.
Yeah, and that was my first exposure to meetings and community. What I found at the first few meetings I went to is I'd get stuck in the back of the room. I couldn't hear necessarily the people in the front. I felt I was missing out. So I started getting there early, getting in the front of the room.
I sit right in front of the speaker.
Yeah.
So my sponsor did. He goes, "What are you doing sitting way up back?" He's like, "Sit here."
Well, I'm notoriously late for just about everything. Your recovery today,
Yeah.
you're still going to meetings.
Mhm.
You're still sponsoring people.
I don't take on as many sponsees as I used to because of my bandwidth, but I do carry like one or two guys. I took 2 women all the way through the steps.
Yeah.
I think recovery is harder for women than it is for us.
Yeah.
And I believe that because, when you think about the nature of this disease, and unfortunately, it doesn't happen a lot, but there are people that can be predatory in the recovery community, and women are targeted. That's why they have, now they have the disclaimer at AA meetings, if someone's making you feel uncomfortable, tell a group member and we can deal with it.
Yeah.
And it has been, but really for me, the people I've sponsored, I've taken a few people through the steps all the way. And for me, working with the people I have and working with those women was really a super growth point for me too. And it was also to show people, like, I was like, hey, if you're spiritually fit and you have boundaries, it's fine. But there are a lot of people that, that's really difficult for them to do.
I mean, you got to check your intentions.
Sure.
And intention is a big thing. And for a long time, that's what I used to do is, if I was making it, what's my intention? Am I doing this for the right reasons? Or is there something in the back of my head that I can recognize?
Sure.
And then, acting on that once I realize.
And I explained this at a meeting I went to recently when I checked in. I was like, at no point in time through this stressful process, I've been like, you know what's a really good idea? I'm gonna go drink and get some stimulants, and that'll make everything better. You know what I mean? I never thought to myself, like, to get back to your question about what I do now, it's like I take care of myself physically. I go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week still.
Yeah, and I mean, you've come a long way. I've noticed a difference over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I still go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week. I live with a woman now. She has a 9-year-old daughter. And I have not lived with a person in 20-something years. So it's all like, I'm age, 47, and like I have this whole new life. So really, to me, recovery is about being there for my family, being there for myself, right? Making sure my recovery is taken care of so I can take care of them. In their needs. And I'm not talking about like financials, but I'm talking about emotionally being there for both of them, right? My recovery is about leading by example. Like, so everybody knows me.
Yeah.
There's very few rivers in the city of Lewiston.
Yeah.
And a lot of people especially know me from here. And so for me, like, I have to think, like, how does my behavior influence or affect people's perception or their behavior?
Yeah.
So if they see me, being healthy, being happy, taking care of myself, trying to inspire people, just being positive, that's how my recovery is now. My recovery is about transparency, and really it's about people's. And I'm not a person that really cares what people think about me. That's not what I mean.
Right.
But really, it's about
how people see it.
How people see us.
Yeah.
Right. Like doing this.
Yeah.
Right. It's about showing people this works.
Yep.
You can go from being, and trust me, I was not the nicest guy in the world while I was actively using substances. I could be pretty rotten at times. It's about getting rid of that old person and thriving with the new person I've become. That's really what really keeps me. It's like, hey man, when you wake up today, when you step out the door and then you come back, how did people see you today?
And I was living homeless in my car for quite a while during my recovery. And at the end of every day, I would think about all the interactions I had.
Mm-hmm.
Did I come across clear?
Inventory.
Did people receive the messages I intended? Or
Right.
can I change something to make it better?
Right.
I could talk to you about recovery all day.
I know, we could be here for 3 or 4 hours, man. Honestly, no, what I will say is this, is that my message, whenever someone asks me anything I want to add, I always want to, like, the newcomer and people that are just starting out. It's like, it's not going to happen overnight. You know what I mean? This is a process. I'm 9 years sober now, a little over 9 years, and I didn't get there because I was lazy about my recovery, I guess I could put it this way. For me, it was about work. This is, recovery isn't easy sometimes. It's not. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I had to put a lot of work in. I mean, the first 2 or 3 years of my recovery, I lived and breathed recovery.
Yeah.
I did everything my sponsor told me. I was deeply rooted in the community. I was always doing service work. I had the keys to the church I opened for years, and I made the coffee and set up the sound system. For me, I want people to understand that, like, when you see the person picking up their 3 or 4 year anniversary chip, people instantaneously like, oh, I want that. I'm not there yet. This sucks. He looks like this. I'm like, you have no idea what went into that chip yet.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, you can have what that person has.
Absolutely.
But you have to work for it.
Yeah.
There's times, you know, it's not going to be. I don't want to use anything offensive, but it's not going to be unicorn farts and rainbows all the time, dude.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be like everything's happy and great. There's going to be challenges. You're going to have normal life to deal with. Yeah.
Thank you, River.
Thanks, man.
I really appreciate you reaching out.
today, man. Yeah. Anything I can do to help other people, man. I hope it
Absolutely.
does.
Thanks for watching the show. Remember, recover loud, everyone.
Recover loud, let your voice ring clear. Together we stand.